Hey guys, so we are back for yet another episode of Let's Talk Tobago. This week we are coming to you from Comfort Inn and Suites in Scarborough. Now, Comfort Inn and Suites is home to a rooftop pool, a restaurant with sparkling ocean views, and a full-service spa. All of these amenities and more you'll get to see because Let's Talk Tobago starts right now. I'm Davia Chambers. Come along with us. So what do we have to share with you? Well, we take you to the UN Women Facilitators Program graduation ceremony. We also share with you the TRHA's internship graduation ceremony, and we have highlights from Independence Day celebrations in Tobago. All these stories and more when Let's Talk Tobago returns. Stay with us. Minutes from the cruise port, Comfort Inn and Suites pairs a convenient location with premium amenities, so you're ready to take on the day. Highlights of the brand new hotel include a rooftop pool and restaurant with sparkling ocean views, a full-service spa and modern fitness center, free Wi-Fi, and daily complimentary breakfasts. There's also spacious guest rooms and suites. Comfort Inn and Suites, a better us for the best of you. So in our first story this week, we tell you how Tobago continues to make headway in its efforts towards eliminating gender-based violence. Here's more from Omadaro Mills.
Tobago now has 25 UN Foundation's facilitators who are equipped to educate others about gender-based violence. They're also able to give guidance on preventative measures regarding gender-based abuse. Armed with their new skills, graduates are grateful to have participated in this UN Women Foundation's program Facilitators Training.
We looked at some of the cultural impacts of gender and how even our own society impacts how gender is seen. So we looked at the role of men and women, and even from a young age, the roles of boys and girls. Different things that are frowned upon with boys, frowned upon with girls. I think it was very important because a lot of times we look at gender-based violence on the surface, like thinking that someone is probably just angry with another person and acting out. But when you look at these kind of underlying issues, you realize that it's more deeper than just someone deciding to act out.
Previous set of buzzwords were reducing violence against women and girls. Before it became a gender thing that is now more all-encompassing, it started off as a movement towards reducing violence against women and girls. And as we did this work, it became globally clear that in order to treat with violence against women and girls, we've got to incorporate boys and men. This workshop allows us to equip potential facilitators to appropriately and comprehensively conduct gender and gender-based violence training in emotionally safe ways. This program is but one of the many gender-sensitive initiatives that the division continues to implement, many of which are centered on the holistic development of our country as we streamline and implement best practices monitored by gatekeepers of the National Policy on Gender and Development and the United Nations Development Programme Sustainable Development Goals 5 and 10.
The intent of the program is to nurture the abilities of positive change agents and increase the number of people who are able to eliminate gender-based abuse. I'm Amadaro Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
So in this next story, we take you to the 4th Financial Literacy Secretariat's Youth Biz Virtual Summer Camp closing ceremony. Do enjoy.
With the help of a dynamic team of facilitators and support from various organizations in the financial and business sector, Youth Biz has been able to provide this year 72 young persons between the ages of 13 to 18 with the practical financial and business tools required to build financially successful lives in the future. Through the use of virtual workshops and presentations, campers spend the first few days of camp learning about the fundamentals of financial literacy, such as budgeting, saving, financial planning, responsible decision-making, and personal money management.
This year's camp is aptly themed Unlock Your Creative Genius. This theme is important and timely in that it highlights the need for our young people to be creative and innovative.
So many of our people have many subjects, but have very poor business acumen, very poor business skills. And we take for granted that business must be taught. There is a faulty assumption that somehow you wake up one day and you're just going to be good at business. That's not how it works. People who are excellent at business tend to find time to study their craft. What you youngsters are getting is a kind of education we did not get in high school. We had to learn by whoops or vaps or by accident, by trial and error. Nobody placed us to sit down and insisted on some of the things that you are being taught. You are coming away from this with a bank account.
When you think about the Tobago Regional Health Authority, you think about nurses, doctors, and the patients, but it's much more than that. And over 50 interns recently found this out as they gained valuable work experience. Here's more in this story. Take a look.
Shanika Adams is an aspiring doctor, currently pursuing a medical degree at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. So 9 weeks of work experience under the Tobago Regional Health Authority's summer internship program was an ideal fit for her, along with 52 other interns during the July-August vacation.
I would say it was enlightening and eventful. We did a lot of activities, workshops on Fridays, as well as I had the opportunity to work in the A&E, Accidental Emergency at Roxbury Hospital, as well as MOPC, which is a medical outpatient clinic. For a lot of persons who may or may not know what field they want to enter into, it helps you to discover your niche. At the TRHA, it doesn't only consist of, as I first thought, of the medical faculty or the medical sector. It also includes human resources, finance, accounts, education, and as such you have different opportunities to explore.
I worked at the Department of Environment at the Scarborough General Hospital. It was a very eventful experience and I enjoyed it. I was mainly grateful for gaining experience in the leadership aspect, because leadership is a quality that would push youths forward to do great things. And time management is also hand in hand with leadership. A good leader is a good time manager.
The synergy between your studies and the internship is crucial in nurturing your passion and fueling your professional ambitions. Interns were able to apply their theoretical knowledge to practical tasks, but also foster a sense of relevance and enthusiasm for their chosen fields. This alignment also benefited the TRHA, as interns are better equipped to make valuable contributions.
I hope that this experience that you've had would allow you to critically determine whether being within the health field really is what you love to do. Ensure that wherever you go, ensure that what you do, ensure that what becomes your life journey is something that you actually want to do. And ensure that it is something that you enjoy doing, and coincidentally, it is wonderful that you get paid to do what you enjoy doing.
The internship program included tours to various medical facilities and weekly life skills sessions. It was restarted this year under the theme, Investing in Youth, Building with Us. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
So we have to take a break right now, but when we return, we have more stories to share with you. Stay with us because Let's Talk Tobago will be right back. Assemblyman for Bethel Newgrange, Terrence Baines, hosted his second annual Ball Blast and Food Fest at the Montgomery Recreational Ground recently. We were there and we have all the highlights in this story.
The district of Bethel Newgrange is strengthening its community through sport and food. The second edition of the Baines Ball Bash and Food Fest took place at the Montgomery Recreational Grounds, which hosted a three-a-side basketball competition, netball, and small goal football competitions.
This ground is a kind of central place, is one of the most trafficked ground in Tobago. And I thought about what we could do, and we know the power of sport. You know, when we started last year, so I thought about we doing these sporting disciplines and so on. And we did everything one day. We had everything happening simultaneously and so on. There were much more people and so on. And I said, you know, that it seems that this could be a signature event for the district.
The second day climaxed with a special charity cooking competition, which challenged 4 teams to deliver their best on a particular dish.
Cooking pork, chicken, and fish. Also, we're basically doing a fried pork. And the guy did so nice, eh? So you're gonna love it.
We love it. Bring community together and everybody a team spirit here. Good food, pepper pork, smoked pork, stew pork, stew chicken, dumpling, roast breadfruit, see the works. Yeah, fish, it have fish rasta man. Fish, yeah, cuckoo. So everything there, we have everything.
We're cooking this pork by average. The only rasta not tasting this pork today. Well, we're not eating pork. So we presentation is a pig we make, and so we dealing with the pig today, Rastafari. All they ain't gonna kill me. They're gonna forgive me today. Today's a competition.
So what style we done today? Where's on the menu today?
Well, we doing the pork judging, and we do the vegetable rice, and we have some dumpling. So we curry stew with pork, and the secret, I smoke it first. That's the secret.
What we get today on we menu? Well, it's stew pork, curry stew chicken, a curry coconut fish with some nice fried rice, some dumpling.
After teams were judged, their meals were made free to patrons. Assemblyman Bishop Terrence Baines says the goal of the event is to create havens which help foster communities and families. The Ball Bash and Food Fest also had activities such as free face painting and bouncy castle for the kids. And for the much bigger kids and adults, they tried their luck at catching a pig in a greasy pit. I'm Ryan McCool for Let's Talk Tobago.
And in our final story, we give you an Independence Roundup with Ryan McCool. We hope you enjoy. And that's a wrap for this edition of Let's Talk Tobago. Thank you so much for joining us at Comfort Inn and Suites in Scarborough. Remember to follow us on all of our social media handles, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. On behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, we'll see you again next week, but from a different location. Bye-bye.
You're watching Let's Talk Tobago.
put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, Tobago, and welcome to the Tobago Updates Youth Wednesday show. We're joining you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. You know, we have the kids back out to school and that kind of thing. But before we get into the banter, my name is Kaylee Lewis, and my beautiful co-host here this morning.
I am Natalia Nancis. Good morning.
Hi, Natalia. Good morning, and what a pleasure to have you here with us this morning. It's my first time co-hosting with you, and I must say, she's a very lovely young lady.
Thank you very much. You as well. I'm very excited to be here as well.
Okay, wonderful. So how has your week been so far? It's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week. We've gone through Monday, Tuesday. How has that been for you so far?
Monday and Tuesday was the energy-packed times of the week, and now we're on Wednesday where I'm feeling a bit drained, but still very much excited to be here. So the energy went right back up this morning, right? I mean, it's back to work for me, a typical day, but for the kids, it's back to school, right? I saw a few of them waiting on the bus. I find it's very early, but they got up and I'm proud of them.
Okay, yes, so wonderful to be able to have to be able to wake up so early to take transportation to go to school. I remember those days, but now we have to wake up early to go to work. Thankfully, I live very close to where I go to work, and I lived very close to where I went to school in the latter years.
Yeah.
So that's something to be happy about. Okay, and what else has been happening in this space?
Well, I recently saw this thing where a guy went missing after being on a dating app.
Oh, right. Okay, I think I saw an article about that. He met someone online, he went on a date, and now he's missing. And I think that's something that's very important for us as young persons to be more aware about, because we are living in a technological era. So we're bound to meet somebody online. We're bound to go on a date with somebody we just met. We just got their number. We talked to them on WhatsApp for a little bit, you know, and just meet them in person. And I think what happened was persons knew he went on a date. So it's not like, you know, he didn't tell anybody at all. So, you know, we probably have to think of some kind of preventative measures, probably share location with somebody so they could be tracking you. If your location off, then they need to find out what is going on. Make sure your phone is charged and that kind of thing. You know, probably do some background checks on a person, because people are crazy out here these days.
True, and it doesn't even have to be an actual dating site, you know. Facebook, Instagram, and these things, they're what the youths normally use to connect with other people that they don't know, people that they do know. So what I think, as you said, share location, let your family know a little bit more about the person that you're going to meet and these kind of things to prevent that type of occurrence happening.
It's crazy out here these days. Okay, so before we get any further, we're going to head over to Tanika for news in 90 seconds.
The news in 90 seconds is brought to you by Flow, working for you on Tobago's newest fiber network.
Talia and Kaylee. I am Tanika Cruikshank, and here is your news in 90 seconds for Wednesday, 6 September 2023. Following a meeting with Port Authority, the Tobago Division of Trinidad and Tobago Chambers of Commerce is optimistic about boosting cargo transport to Tobago. Curtis Williams, the Chamber's president, highlighted the impact of the MV's Cabo Star's absence on Tobago. Meanwhile, Demijan Cruikshank, head of the Chamber's Inter-Island Transport Committee, suggested a solution. Prioritize the allocation of trucks on 3 vessels, the Buku Reef, APT James and Galleon's Passage, especially for transporting food and perishables. As of the latest update from the Port Authority, repairs to the MV Cabo Star are ongoing and no resumption date has been set. PDP leader Watson Duke demands renovation for his Roxborough constituency office. He accuses the THA administration led by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine neglecting his constituents. Duke's office remains unrenovated with malfunctioning air conditions, leakage, and power outages due to a rotten pole. He criticizes the lack of job opportunities for Roxborough residents and warns of potential consequences if his administration continues to ignore the needs. This follows Duke's call for Augustine to unite or be considered a political enemy. Augustine and the THA executives formed the Tobago's People's Party following a public disagreement between Duke and Augustine. The Ministry of Education reported that over the past 3 years, a total of 71,000 laptops and tablets were provided to teachers and students in Trinidad. However, just yesterday, the ministry distributed 8,000 laptops to principals for both students and teachers in their respective schools. The distribution process will continue until the 18th of September 2023, with principals from 500 primary and secondary schools expected to collect their devices. The ministry also reminded parents that obtaining a device depends on passing a means test accessible on the ministry's website. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Thank you, Tanika, for that wonderful read of the news. And the viewers are going to head over to birthdays, and birthdays are sponsored by KFC.
This is your birthday shoutouts on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
Next on our list, we have Tegan Radix. He turned 9 years old today. And Tegan, we want to wish you a very, very happy birthday this morning from the Tobago Updates family. This shout out is coming from your mom.
Next we have Sean Anthony. Happy birthday to you and birthday blessings from the Tobago Updates family.
Next on our list is Chad Andrews. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Andrews.
Ethan Archie, happy birthday to you.
Oh, yeah,
no.
It's Mr. Anthony Parks. Okay, so happy birthday to you, Mr. Parks. This greeting is coming from your wife, Bernadette Parks, from your kids, grandkids, and the rest of the Parks family. And of course, us here at Tobago Updates.
I was a bit too fast there. Now we have Ethan Archie. Happy birthday to you and God's blessings coming from the Tobago Updates family.
And last but not least, Abiola Clement. Happy birthday to you, Abiola. We really hope that you have a wonderful day today. Lots of cake, ice cream, jump up on France.
Birthday shoutouts on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger.
Only one I see is you.
Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky fried chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
You know, every time I see this ad from KFC with the Zinger, I always say that, you know, I never got the opportunity to try the barbecue Zinger. You ever had the opportunity to try it?
I have never even tried a Zinger.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, we kept that in.
Yeah, we need to fix that. We need to fix that for sure. Okay, so viewers, you know, we have to give you the rundown. So first up, we're going to have Dr. Oscar Ocho, and he's going to be talking to us about HIV/AIDS awareness. Next, we're going to be speaking with Miss Kiana Jones, and she's going to be speaking about a Jolly Drive. That's a distribution that she wants to do around the Christmas time. So, you know, remember to stay tuned and share the live, share the live, share the live. We're heading over to Tobago in Focus.
Naturally, most persons think that gender automatically refers to a male or female. However, the term can be used in many instances. The gender unit within the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection assists persons in vulnerable situations. Gender Officer Nigel Phillip explains the unit's responsibility in detail.
We address issues of gender-based violence. We address issues of matters that deal with students at schools. So we are in the schools, we are in different programs throughout Tobago, men's group. We address issues that affect both men and also issues that affect female.
For the gender unit to be effective, Philip states they need to have persons on the ground to assist. This currently consists of different NGO groups, religious-based organizations, agencies in Trinidad, and the Ministry of Gender Affairs. The unit also works with the United Nations.
So what we do in terms that we address issues of gender-based violence. So we provide support for persons who come into our office that is affected by gender-based violence. We also work very closely with the TTPS, the police services, the victim and support unit. When cases of domestic violence or gender-based violence come to hand, they will refer the matter to us.
In addition to the unit's large portfolio, they give further intervention when needed. They provide support to NGOs by means of training in how to deal with violence and violent situations. They also provide support by means of funding for various programs.
Presently, right now, from 2020 to present right now, we have been working with the Spotlight Initiative. The Spotlight Initiative is a program designed to assist persons who in gender-based violence. So it educates them. We have different aspects of the program. And one of those aspects is that where we work with those NGOs. So the training that we will offer them is like we had training in sexual violence and how to deal with sexual violence. We have training we would have done training in shelter management, and we would have tried to do training with key persons on the ground.
Key persons on the ground are inclusive of the judiciary, the police services, first responders, and medical services. These trainings also include support training and learning how to gauge persons when they come for support.
This morning we're going to be chatting with Dr. Oscar Ocho. He is the director of the UE School of Nursing, and he's going to be chatting with us a little bit about HIV/AIDS. Good morning, Dr. Ocho.
Hi, and a pleasant good morning to you. How are you? It's a pleasure being here.
Hi.
We're fine, thank you. How are you this morning?
Well, I am blessed. The Lord has given me favor. I'm grateful for life and always grateful for the privilege of sharing with the national community.
Wonderful.
Thank you for being here with us. Right, so we know that you're very versed in the topic of HIV/AIDS, as the director of School of Nursing, as well as being a medical professional yourself, yes? So we just want to ask a few questions. Well, we know that we just went through a COVID-19 pandemic, right? It was this big thing. But to me, like, people forgetting we have other things that we should be aware of, right? Hence the reason for HIV awareness interview this morning with Dr. Ocho, right? So our first question, so that we're all on the same page, could you tell us a little bit about what HIV/AIDS is? What is it? Can you define it for us?
Right. HIV, the name, human immunodeficiency virus, is a virus which causes AIDS. It is usually spread by three major routes: through sex, either anal or vaginal sex, from mother to child, or through blood. It's called human immunodeficiency virus because it affects humans. It weakens the immune system and causes a cascade of problems for the individual.
All right.
And who are some of the persons that are more likely to transmit the virus?
Well, the reality is a person who has multiple sexual partners. However, the statistics have also shown that there are individuals who have had one sexual encounter, or there are individuals who would have had one partner, but the partner would not have had one partner. Then you also have, as I indicated before, mother to child, because there are some women who may be faithful in their relationships, but their spouses are not faithful, and therefore it's likely that they could become infected and infect their children. And we also have individuals who have a sexually transmitted infection. That also increases your risk for becoming diagnosed with HIV.
Okay, so now that you've told us a little bit of what HIV is and how it can be transmitted, we should move on to how it can be prevented, how it can be avoided. So you can sexually transmit it and it can pass on from mother to child. How can this be prevented?
Excellent question. And I'm glad that you positioned this with a focus on the fact that school is reopened. And it's important for us to recognize that the schools appear to be one of the places where students believe that they have freedom to explore and express themselves, even sexually. So you want young people especially, and I believe our focus is on the youth, to recognize that one, you need to place a value on yourself. And I usually say to young people, sex is not running away. There's going to come a time and a place when you would be able to enjoy your sexual experience as God would have ordained it. So one, place value on yourselves. Two, we a lot of vulnerable young people who may be coming from environments where they might be economically deprived, or in social environments where they do not feel validated. And we want to encourage these young people to reach out to counselors, to reach out to individuals whom they could trust, where they could share their feelings, and one, where they could be validated in the correct way. Thirdly, we want persons to recognize that you need to set boundaries, emotional boundaries, and physical boundaries when it comes to sexual behavior. So you need to recognize when people are making unwanted advances towards you. You have to learn to say no, but you also need to recognize what are the available support systems so that you can be able to make a report to get help. But there are some people who really feel as though they are uncontrolled, because let's face it, some of our young people are sexually abused in the home through incest by a father, a brother, an uncle, or cousin. And therefore, they find themselves being helpless to deal with their sexual urges. And while condoms are not 100% safe, they still offer some sense of protection to individuals who are active.
Okay, Dr. Ocho. And in terms of these children we're speaking about who are probably abused at their homes and that kind of thing, all these children, you said that a lot of students at the school level, they're involved in sexual activity and that kind of thing. What do we do to remedy this issue? You said that there are resources that they can reach out to guidance counselors and that kind of thing. But how do we move from the student having to reach out to the guidance counselor to the guidance counselor being able to reach out to the child? Because I mean, even within the school system, some of these children we aren't able to easily identify them. They may be coming to school looking quite normal, so the teacher doesn't pinpoint the student and say, well, okay, I think you need to have some time with the guidance counselor. Some of these children look quite fine all the time. So how do we go from pinpointing these students so that they can be able to, have conversations and that kind of thing to remedy this problem?
Right. This is such an excellent question that you have raised. And one of the things that adults, and I'm using adults in general, parents, teachers, guidance counselors, is that you need to use your observation skills. Check and see if the emotional temperature of the child has changed. Has a child who was normally outgoing suddenly become a loner and a recluse? And if you notice a change in behavior, that may be an indication that something is going on in that child's emotional or physical space, but they are not comfortable enough to come forward. So you now have to be able to make that first move. Look at whether the child is coming with gifts or new things that you know that child cannot afford, because very often the perpetrator would be offering gifts so that the individual will stay quiet, or we talk like hush money or hush gifts. But it's also important, as I listened to your introduction before we came on, the gender unit in the THA is also an important unit where we must be able to let people know that resources are available. However, the big challenge is, even when the resources are accessed, we got to ensure that there is a safe environment where confidentiality is maintained. And in an environment that is as small as Tobago, where everybody knows everybody, we got to ensure that confidentiality and trust environments rather that facilitate confidentiality and trust are developed and facilitated. But I also want to say that we need to encourage young people to find at least one person they could trust, whom they know they have confidence in, and let that person be their conduit to reach out for other help.
Okay, and I think we're moving in a little bit to grooming, right? But staying with HIV/AIDS, I think at the school level, even persons who aren't in school, teenagers, at some point in time, sex is bound to happen, right? Let's say, even probably one of the school kids, right? They end up in a situation and, God forbid, they contract the virus. What measures can they take at that point in terms of their mental health, their psychological well-being? What steps can they take at that point in time? Because I can imagine a young person, probably second form, third form, even in fifth form, you have exams to sit very soon, and unfortunately, you contract the virus. It could lead to things like suicide and that kind of thing. What steps can that young person take at that point in time?
Well, the first thing is that the person has to reach out for testing. Yeah? So, look, the person has to first be conscious of some signs and symptoms. Are they getting something like fevers, unexplained fevers? Are they experiencing loss of weight? Are they having what we call swollen lymph nodes under the arm, at the side of the neck, in the groin? Do they have any vaginal or penile discharge? So understanding some of the signs that you will look for to indicate that there is an infection, reach out for testing, and through the testing there'll be counseling, pre-testing, but there'll also be counseling post-testing, and a unit like the gender unit will be able to provide them with the necessary referrals and support in the health system. The challenge, though, is if the person is underage, that becomes a legal issue because you're dealing now with the Children's Authority Act. So it's important that we educate individuals to know what are the resources that are available, because the victim support unit will come in handy. The challenge is, what if it is two students who are under the age of 18 and one exposed the person to infection? Again, the Children's Authority Act and through the gender and victim support units in the THV, students will be able to get the necessary help and the psychological support that they will need.
Okay, Dr. Ochu, so we're going to take a very short break and we're going to come back to continue the conversation. Viewers, remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Mount Pleasant Credit Union present the Edgar Davidson Bursary Awards 2023. Awards available are SEA, CSEC, and CAPE. Tertiary, technical and vocational. Your requirements are: complete the application form, student's performance report, or transcript. Applicants must be a member or a member whose child wrote an exam in 2023. Forms are available via our website or can be collected at our branch office. For further information, www.mpcutobago.com, marketing at mpcutobago.com, or call us 639-8902 or 8375. Deadlines for submission 15th of September 2023.
So your car break down.
Oh, no, not again.
And you're worried paying a wrecker could mean a pocket breakdown too. But when you're insured with Tatil, no stress.
Yes!
A Tatil motor policy has lots of benefits that protect your pocket, like free roadside assistance that's free 24/7 every time, as many times as you need. Tatil, where people are people. A member of the Ansa McCall Group.
Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meats served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. snacks. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning.
And we are back. For those of you just joining us, we are here with Dr. Oscar Ocho, Director of the School of Nursing for UWI St. Augustine, Trinidad. He is giving us information on HIV, AIDS, and its awareness, right? Yes, so we'll continue, Dr. Ocho. My question to you is, someone who is a minor, as we're talking about the youths and those going back to school, how do they go about the testing process? Because they might be afraid to go in and, ask for an HIV test to be done, etc., etc. Are they allowed to go by themselves? Do they have to ask an adult? What do you think they should do? Like, what's their format of questioning in terms of going to get testing?
Right. And let me answer this by providing a particular context. The Ministry of Health's HIV testing policy, when this was developed years ago, allowed a child from the age 14 to have an HIV test. However, because the Children's Authority Act identifies an adult as 18, it means, therefore, that any child, and by definition, a person below the age of 18, will need to now have adult or parental consent. What this simply means then, that for an individual who goes for HIV test would be an indication that they are sexually active. The onus then is on the health professional, not only to get counseling for such a child, but that person must be referred to the legal system, because the Children's Authority Act clearly states that if someone is sexually active below the age of 18, that individual cannot give consent, and it becomes a legal matter. In fact, the Act clearly indicates that if you know someone to be sexually active or is being abused and you do nothing about it, you as well could be charged. So it's important, while they could access the services, this takes on beyond the health system, it takes on a legal parameter as well.
And for persons who are not minors, how often should they be tested?
Again, it all depends on the person's sexual lifestyle. In fact, understanding HIV, because it takes a period of time before an individual could what we call seroconvert. So when that person is exposed to an infection, it does not mean that the person will develop the antibodies right away. So it is recommended that if you believe that you have been exposed to HIV through sexual contact, if you do a baseline first, you do a baseline testing to determine whether you believe the exposure was the foundation. If you are tested positive, it means that you were positive before that encounter. If you are negative, then they may give you a 3 or a 6 month period where you will return. However, we do not want individuals every week or every month to be going to get themselves tested, because what that will mean is that you are either promiscuous or you are irresponsible in your sexual behavior.
Okay, and in terms of false negatives, from the wealth of experience that you have, how often would you say it occurs?
Well, again, because I do not have the statistics, the epi data, it will be very difficult for me to say. But again, because it depends on the laboratory that you're using, as long as it's a recognized and accredited laboratory, the likelihood of coming up with a false negative is minimal, although it is still possible. But because of the increase in the specificity and the sensitivity of the test, the risk of having a false negative is significantly decreased.
Okay, and some time ago when I was listening to a little seminar they had on HIV/AIDS, they were talking about the home testing. In this day and age, how effective would you say it is? How reliable would you say the at-home testing for HIV/AIDS is?
Well, it is reliable because it has been well tested, it has been proven to be effective. But again, if a person believes that he or she should use the home test, in spite of the result, I would strongly recommend that the individual visits one of the established HIV testing sites, simply because you will not only get the test, but that you would be provided with a breadth of information as I am presenting, as well as the necessary counseling. Because you see, people may do that because they may not be conscious of the risk behaviors that are associated with HIV positive or positive test.
All right. So you've mentioned home testing, right? Would you say that home testing is available in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, home testing is available in Trinidad and Tobago, and it has been available for a while. As to the volume of usage, I cannot speak to it again because I do not have the available data.
Okay, and I can imagine how catastrophic this home testing can be, because you could just imagine somebody finds out that, they have a positive test. I mean, it doesn't have to be true, as you said. They have to go to the necessary lab to confirm the information. But imagine, you receive the test, you realize that your test is positive, and then you just go into a disarray, you're sad, you go into a state of depression, that kind of thing. Some people might even just decide, well, they want to go and give it to everybody else. But I mean, in a case like that, somebody who is aware that they have the virus and they go spreading it to other people, I'm not sure how much you can speak on that, but from a legal standpoint, what procedures can persons take?
This again is such an important question that you raised, because one of the big issues that you're dealing with is, how do we criminalize sex? Because it will have to be proven that the individual deliberately set out to infect an individual. Now, it has happened in the past. And there have been examples, not in Trinidad and Tobago, there have been examples where it was proven legally that the person did set out to deliberately infect an individual. But to prove it is the big challenge, bearing in mind with adult sexual encounter, you are dealing with consensual sex. So how are you going to criminalize consensual sex? It's going to be extremely difficult. But you could criminalize, and the law allows you to criminalize underage sex. But in my experience, years ago, having worked in HIV, we have had many examples of individuals in their attempt to get even with the person who would have exposed them to the infection. Some people have made deliberate decisions to spread it because they said, if this person could give it to me, then I'll get back to everybody else. And some women, because they develop such anger against men, they then become develop a deliberate attitude of negativity towards men. And so they decide to just sleep with men in an attempt to give it to them. So on both ends, we do have it. The adults consent, which is difficult to criminalize. And on the other hand, person to become angry. But we also have had situations where individuals, as you rightly said, have become so depressed that suicide became an option. But I say to people, with the availability of treatment, which is free in the public health services, people are now able to live healthy, productive lives, and you will not even know that they are HIV positive.
Okay, so we touched on the legalities, so we're moving on to after it's, if we could prove it, right? Let's say we do go to the police station, we make a report. We believe that the person that we've encountered would have had HIV, known to the person. Could you touch on are you able to touch on the legal consequences of these actions?
All right. Well, in the first instance, if, for example, we have a lot of persons who purchase sex, okay, so that there was an exchange. Now, if the individual who ended up selling the sex or purchasing the sex and knew the HIV status and did not take deliberate steps to ensure that they protected the individual, and it can be proven that the person was aware of their HIV status, then there is grounds, sufficient grounds, to prove that the person had ill intent. But what if the person never knew their status, but you would have gone to a hotel, a brothel? You may have even gone in your car, gone on the beach in Tobago, or gone in a house, and the person decided that there is bartering, but the person became HIV positive. The question is, how can you prove that the person you had the encounter with is the person who was responsible for your HIV status, especially if this was not your first sexual encounter? So reasonable doubt to prove reasonable doubt, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination a lawyer, that is what makes it difficult to criminalize consensual sex among adults.
Okay, and in terms of persons who they have the virus, but how do you refer to it? It's not detectable, right? Okay.
Yeah,
In those types of situations, how do we go about reducing the stigma against those types of persons or persons with HIV/AIDS in general, and the persons who aren't detectable? How, in terms of their lifestyle and being able to still have sex with persons, persons may be a little bit skeptical in a situation like that. Talk a little bit about those types of situations.
Right, excellent. You have some really great questions this morning. So a person who is on treatment, and this is why the global mandate is the 95, 95, 95, when 95% of persons who are HIV positive know their status. 95% are on treatment. Okay? So a person who is maintaining their treatment regimen, and we have come a long way in how the pharmaceutical industry have been able to develop the drug regimen to reduce a person's moving on from HIV to AIDS to death. And this is why they can now become undetectable. With the suppression of the HIV virus, then transmissibility is extremely low. And I can tell you, as a person who first worked in HIV as a clinical nurse in 1989, we have come a long way. In those days, discrimination was rampant. Many persons who died as a result of AIDS had a pauper's funeral because the families failed, one, to claim the body, and two, after 3 months, the persons got a pauper's funeral. We now have people who died with AIDS who are having a normal funeral with friends, families, and well-wishers. So what we need to help the general public to know, as long as a person is compliant with their medication and they remain undetectable and they follow up with their treatment, you could have the person at your home, you could share the same toilet, you could eat the same food. Your risk of becoming infected is almost zero. So that person could live a normal, healthy life. And do you know, chances are we might be relating to countless numbers of persons in the office, in the community, in our churches who are undetectable and we don't know. So let us treat each person with a level of respect and love.
All right. So as we wrap up, I must say that this morning has been very informative. I have one more question for you to leave with our viewing audience. Dr. Ocho, what advice from a medical professional standpoint can you give to a young person who is sexually active concerning protection?
All right. Well, let me answer this question in 2 ways. A young person who is sexually active, especially if you are sexually active with someone over the age of 18, that person with whom you are sexually active is committing a crime. So I want to put that out on the table because I want you to recognize that there are legal implications for your actions. 2, seek help. Seek help from the health services, because chances are that young person may not want to be sexually active, but that person may have been orientated to sexual behaviors and after a while developed a likeness for the behavior. So seek help. Seek help from a health professional or a counselor. But I also want to remind the individual, because you're not only dealing with HIV, but you're dealing with the risk for other sexually transmitted infections as well as pregnancy. Protect yourself by using a condom.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ocho. And as Natalia would have said, this morning's interview was very, very informative. Yes. I hope that a lot of the young persons were listening. And even if they weren't listening, the interview will be posted to our Facebook page later today. So you can be sure to just check back, you know, make sure to share it, view it, and send it to all the young persons that you know. So thank you again for chatting with us this morning. Viewers, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be chatting with Kiana Jones about the Jolly Drive. So remember to share the life, share the life, share the life. We'll be right back.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
There's a new date for Tobago Swim Fest, September 17th, 2023. Come and witness the main event, the 4-kilometer swim from Pigeon Point to Buku Point. More than $25,000 in prizes. It's a family affair, so come out from 11 a.m. on the beautiful Buku Beach. There'll be swimming races, sandcastle building, and seafood on sale. Come and enjoy a fun day at the beach. Calling swimmers from Crown Point to Charlottesville. Registration on the day.
Mount Pleasant Credit Union Back to School Loan Promotion. Loans up to $15,000. Requirements: job letter and a payslip no more than 1 month old. Utility bill, copy of book list, salary deduction, 10% down payment. For self-employed persons, evidence of income and expenditure, bank statement, 12 to 18 months. Other supporting document. Promotion ends October 18. Contact us at 639-8375 or 8108 or check us out on www.mpcutobago.com or email us at loan@mpcutobago.com. Mount Pleasant Credit Union's Back to School Loan Promotion.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
And we are back. We continue our program with our interview with Miss Kiana Jones, the proud business owner of Treasured Sweets, and to her perfection, she will be doing a jolly drive for the Christmas time. Yes, right? So we'll start off a little bit with Kiana telling us a little bit about her business. So give us a little bit of background on the two business ventures that you have going.
So To Her Perfection is my baby. That was my first baby because I love to do hair, and Treasured Sweets became my second baby when I realized I love to do baking as well. I'm very skillful, I'm very talented. So these two businesses are my babies. I cherish them a lot.
It's so nice to know that you are skilled and you know where to apply your skills, right? So you are a hairdresser and a baker, right? So let's move straight into it, right? So tell us a little bit about the Jolly Drive initiative.
So Jolly Drive, it's a hamper drive, right? It's my hamper drive that I use through my businesses to make families happy. I love to see people happy. I love to see people smile. And I know how hard it could be in these times. And last year I didn't get to do it, and I was very disappointed in myself. It's something that I try to do every year, because the last year that I did it, when I saw these families smiling, when I saw them, some of them were crying, it brought a lot of joy to me. So this drive is something that I'm really, really working hard towards. It's going to be bigger than all the other drives. It's actually going to be a back-to-school drive, a Christmas drive, and a toy drive. So it's three things in one.
All in one.
Yes.
Wow. All right. So why did you think it was best to start this venture? I know you just mentioned that we're in hard times. I mean, we just came out of a very major, this huge pandemic, and it caused a lot of economic crisis for a lot of families. So why did you think it best to start this drive, and does it have anything to do with that?
So yes, it has a lot to do with that. As a child growing up, I always got what I wanted from my parents. They fully support me, so I never had it hard. But going out there and seeing how hard some persons have it, it gave me the inspiration to just do this, like help persons. This is what I love to actually love to help persons. I love kids, so me going out there and seeing families smiling, it's the best thing that I could ask for.
Right. So you told us that it's not a new initiative, that you've done this before, right? So how long have you been doing the Jolly Drive?
So this will be the third year.
The third year?
Yes. The first time I did it, it wasn't as big. It was just 3 families. And then the second year that I did it, I did 8 hampers. And those families were so happy. It had persons that called me after, and I really couldn't give it to them, but I wanted to. So this year we're trying to make it bigger and better, so that anyone that called me and needs assistance, I would be able to help them.
So you have increased the amount of hampers
yes,
that you can distribute?
Year. So I'm going for at least 20 hampers.
All right. So the first time you did it, right, was it the same format as this year? Okay, let's start with how did you go about distributing these hampers?
So the first time I did it, I actually asked my granny, you know anybody that need help? And she actually gave me 3 families out of the church. The second time that I did it, I came on Tobago Updates, and after the interview, my phone was off the hook. Families were calling, they need assistance. Persons from Trinidad and all were calling. But I mean, I can't go to Trinidad, but I wish I could have. But when I come on the show, when I advertise, persons reach out to me. So that's my way of trying to reach out to these families. That's my strategy of reaching out to these families.
So your format took awareness on Tobago Updates. After that, you had some blow up on your phone, and from there you knew where to go ahead with the distribution, right? I hope that in the future, as your business grows, because you said you moved from 8 and you're doing much more this year, that you can actually venture to Trinidad. Yeah, that is my hope for you. Is the initial format similar to the one that you'll be doing this year? Are you expecting calls, or you have a list of families already lined up?
I'm expecting calls. I have my list, but I still want to see persons reach out to me and tell me about their situation, so I could see how best I could help them. It's always, if anyone knows of anybody that needs help, you could call me. They will put my contact on the screen. Just call me and tell me of these families, their situations, and I will do my best to help them for this Christmas.
Okay, so when you first started the Jolly Drive, what type of response did you receive from the public?
It was great. It was great. Everybody wanted to help. Everybody wanted to help. I wouldn't say that the response was negative. It was very positive. Very, very positive.
So we know that the initiative is coming from your two businesses. That is, I'm going to repeat them again, To Her Perfection and Treasured Sweets, right? But we as the public who is seeing you in this very effective initiative for this time, how can we help? Can we donate to the drive? What can we do?
Yes, so persons could donate to the drive. As I said, they will put my contact on the screen again, so you will call me and you could donate anything you want to donate. I'm not the person to tell you what to donate. Whatever you feel like donating, we will accept it.
So you said it's a back to school,
back to school Christmas toy drive.
Wow. So if we have toys, we could bring it.
If you have toys, you could bring it. If you have books, you could bring it. If you have school bags, you could bring it. If you have drinks, you could bring it. Anything you could bring.
If I have a Christmas ham, I could throw it in the hamper as well.
Yes, because the hampers do carry hams.
Right. In terms of toiletries for the young ladies and things like that, you're welcoming the wide range. All right. So you said back to school, Christmas, and the toy drive. Are you, well, from the songs, to me, it sounds as though you're targeting children, but is it only children that you'll be targeting?
No, so basically the hamper is for the parents. That is for them to provide for their family.
Right.
The toys is just something that I did it the last year that I did the hamper drive, I actually went and I bought toys and I just said, okay, let me just try to see how the kids would react to it. And these kids were so excited. They just saw the toys, they never saw nothing else. They just saw the toys and that was it. They didn't want to see anything else.
They didn't want to see anything
else. Yeah, they didn't want to see anything else. So I said, okay, this year, because it's families that the families that I cater to is families that is wide. They have a lot of kids and such. Single parents and all I cater for. So everything will tie back in because, they're going back out to school in January. Right. Some parents might want to buy bags. Some parents might need to get a little more books. So everything it's going to tie back in and help these families a lot.
Right.
In ways they didn't even imagine.
Right. So we have the books that they could bring bags in good repair, of course.
Yes,
we also have the items that they could donate, the Christmas items and the toys, which would make the children's Christmas very enjoyable, right? That's what we're hoping for. All right, so we're moving a little bit back into your business itself, right? Obviously, when we have new business ventures, etc., these things are normally, they have their challenges, right? We know that you are an e-business, you are online, focused online. This is where we make appointments and these things. What challenges have you faced in terms of the operation?
So both businesses have different challenges. Where with here is a task.
I know.
It's a task. Sometimes it's hard, especially when I do here included specials, persons not showing up. It's very hard, I would say, but at the end of it all, as a young entrepreneur, I would say I have to push through. Ignore everything that's going on, all the negative stuff, and just focus on the positive, and you will make it through. I know there are a lot of young persons out there thinking that they can't do it, but push through. You could do it.
All right, so thank you for that advice for those young people, because you can see Miss Jones is very young herself, so she's in the best position to advise you, right? So as we're wrapping up, right, just let us know, well, you told us how you could deal with the challenges. Let us know about the Jolly Drive business. How can persons donate, and how can you be contacted?
Right, so to contact me, I have two numbers. You could either call 742-6919 or you could call 479-2372. You could either message my business page, which is To Her Perfection, or Treasured Sweets TT.
All right, Miss Kiana Jones, thank you for joining us this morning on our Tobago Update show. Thank you for leaving your contact information. That will be on the screen for those of you who are willing to donate to this cause. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us on Tobago Updates. I would like you to stay with us as we move on to GMT with Miss Jackson. Before I go, I just want to remind you to share the live, share the live, share the live.
With the help of a dynamic team of facilitators and support from various organizations in the financial and business sector, Youth Biz has been able to provide this year 72 young persons between the ages of 13 to 18 with the practical financial and business tools required to build financially successful lives in the future. Through the use of virtual workshops and presentations, campers spend the first few days of camp learning about the fundamentals of financial literacy, such as budgeting, saving, financial planning, responsible decision-making, and personal money management.
This year's camp is aptly themed Unlock Your Creative Genius. This theme is important and timely in that it highlights the need for our young people to be creative and innovative.
So many of our people have many subjects, but have very poor business acumen, very poor business skills. And we take for granted that business must be taught. There is a faulty assumption that somehow you wake up one day and you're just going to be good at business. That's not how it works. People who are excellent at business tend to find time to study their craft. What you youngsters are getting is a kind of education we did not get in high school. We had to learn by whoops or vaps or by accident, by trial and error. Nobody placed us to sit down and insisted on some of the things that you are being taught. You are coming away from this with a bank account.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denicia. Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region, with the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine. I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds.
The news in 90 seconds is brought to you by Flow, working for you on Tobago's newest fiber network.
Following a meeting with the Port Authority, the Tobago Division of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce is optimistic about boosting cargo transport to Tobago. Curtis William, the Chamber's chairman, highlighted the impact of the MV Cabo Star's absence on Tobago. Meanwhile, Demi-John Cruikshank, head of the Chamber's Inter-Island Transport Committee, suggested a solution: prioritize the allocation of trucks on the three vessels, the Bucco Reef, the APG James, and the Galleon's Passage, especially for transporting goods and food and perishables, essential goods, to Tobago. As of the latest update from the Port Authority, repairs to the MV Cabo Star are ongoing and no resumption date has yet been set. Meanwhile, PDP leader Watson Duke demands renovations for his Roxborough constituency office. He accuses the THA administration, led by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine, of neglecting his constituents. Duke's office remains unrenovated with malfunction in air conditioning leaks and power outages due to a rotten pole. He criticizes the lack of job opportunities for Roxborough residents and warns of potential consequences if the administration continues to ignore their needs. This follows Duke's call for Augustine to unite or be considered a political enemy. Augustine and the THA executive formed the Tobago People's Party following a public disagreement between Duke and Augustine. And finally, the Ministry of Education reported that over the past 3 years, a total of 71,000 laptops and tablets were provided to teachers and students in Trinidad. However, just yesterday, the ministry distributed 8,000 laptops to principals for both students and teachers in their respective schools. This distribution process will continue until September 18, 2023, with principals from 500 primary and secondary schools expected to collect their devices. The ministry also reminded parents that obtaining a device depends on passing the means test accessible on the ministry's website. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. And viewers, well, the hot topic for this morning is the PDP leader and assemblyman for Argyle, Roxborough, and that's none other than Mr. Watson Duke. As we know, the last few days, it's been a lot of talks about Duke wanting to reconcile with Chief Secretary Fali Augustine, want to mend that broken relationship towards, fulfilling the mandates that the executive was voted into public. Now, to give us a perspective of that, because a lot has been said from Mr. Duke's standpoint, we are being joined by a political scientist, Dr. Shane Mohammed, who is here to give us his here in person this time around. It's always great to have him in person to give us his perspective on the matter, and we are surely going to get into it. So a special good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Mohammed.
Finally, you're on set, right?
Yes. All right. So first of all, your initial reaction to Duke's call to the Chief Secretary to let's make amendments, let's try to reconcile that olive branch approach, if you will.
No, I have an issue with the olive branch. He has no branches to offer to anybody. He has no branches to ask, to lend, to give. He's to borrow a branch if he has to offer one. I think the only person who is in a position to offer an olive branch is the Chief Secretary. And if he has the prerogative to choose whether he wish to extend that olive branch or not. And he's also within his right to also not even give it any consideration.
And while we are yet to hear from the Chief Secretary whether or not he has in fact received any of the 6 letters that Mr. Duke said he wrote to the Chief Secretary, and whether or not he's going to consider, meeting with Duke for that reconciliation.
Well, the question we should ask is why? What benefit does it give the Chief Secretary at this point in time after everything has been said and done? Why should the Chief Secretary even consider reading those letters, regardless of whether they're 660 or 600? He could just allow them to sit in a file or shred them as the case may be, depending on how he feels. But let's be frank. We are where we are, and the THA is where it is because of Watson Duke's own machinations, his own bad ways. I think those same bad ways were the reasons why he didn't win the Tobago East seat in 2020 in the first place. And it was only after he lost that Tobago East seat, which was his to win, that he got some epiphany that, wait, something's wrong. My communication might be off, and resorted to moving towards Fali being the brand for the PDP. And we saw what that brand did for the PDP in 2021 in terms of 14-1. And I also take note that Mr. Duke has said that he is responsible for the 14-1 win. Let us get some things right. If he was responsible for the 14-1 win, why did he then posit and put forward and brand, as I say, I have to use the word brand, Mr. Fali Augustine as the potential Chief Secretary candidate? And by him putting Fali as the Chief Secretary candidate, it blew the minds of Tobagonians even more than they were already blown away from the 6-6 to bring it to 14-1, and which we could also argue could almost have been 15-0, right? So you must give credit where it's due. And I hear you read the news and you talked about all of what is happening with regard to his office in Roxborough, Argyll, and what is happening with the lamppost and the citizens of Roxborough. Has he been in Roxborough, in his electoral district of Roxborough, Argyll, in the last year? And if so, how many times has the people of Roxborough, Argyll, how many times can they say they've had an interaction with him on a one-on-one, to be able to sit with him at the roadside, sit with him in the office, sit with him in the villages, and have a discussion? Because as far as I see it, he lost in Tobago when he walked out on the THA and gave up the Deputy Chief Secretary from that huge debacle with regard to the New York trip. Then went rogue and decided he was going to sit on the opposite side of the assembly. Then he decided he was going to get a little more desperate and enter into Trinidad and hope that he could have made a dent there by walking through the streets of Port of Spain, walking into the residential areas of Port of Spain, and contesting seats within the San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation. And unfortunately, he didn't realize that the dynamic in Trinidad is very different than the dynamic in Tobago. And as a result of that, well, we see what the results were. Everybody lost their deposit, so he has to put his tail between his legs, return to Tobago, and start all over again, hoping for a lifeline.
And can he start all over again? Do you think that Mr. Duke still has a political future in Tobago?
Candice, this is the most interesting, the most surprising, the most amusing piece of political activity and display of political activism that I've ever seen, I've ever witnessed in the history of Trinidad and Tobago politics. And I will put it to you like this. Mr. Duke is akin to the political Lazarus of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And he's going to the proverbial Jesus Christ in Tobago to give him a lifeline. And I want to remind Tobagonians that it was Lazarus' sister who was weeping. And when she did have to beg the Lord to come to Lazarus' grave, he came willingly and he commanded Lazarus, and Lazarus arise, and Lazarus walked out of his tomb. In this instance, Watson Duke as the political Lazarus of Trinidad and Tobago at this stage, having failed the people of Roxborough Argyle, having disappointed the people of Tobago with regard to his move against the THA, with regard to all of what he's had to say about the Chief Secretary and the administration, cannot afford to come to ask for reconciliation, but worse yet, reconciliation with conditions.
Yes,
You're a man begging with your hands empty. You have nothing to carry and nothing to bring to the table. And on top of that, you want to be a consultant to the administration. You can't want to sit in as assemblyman in the legislature and also be a consultant to the administration. And on top of that, I'm sure the administration itself has enough persons of skill, of integrity, of academic standing, of experience, of creative and innovative minds that can afford them the opportunity to think outside of the box. And they don't need to go to Watson Duke. What Watson is doing is hoping and praying that out there in the political ocean that he's drifting on a piece of wood like that. He reminds me of what's that? Come Candace, you have to help me here. Rose and what's his name? In the Titanic?
Oh, Rose and Jack.
Jack.
Okay, we're going down a road here.
He is like Jack floating upon a piece of wood adrift in the sea, in the large political ocean, begging for a lifeline. And that lifeline, unfortunately, I think he has burnt too many bridges. And you don't dam the bridge you cross. And he's burnt too many bridges. That has also caused the Tobagonian people a level of discontent, a level of discomfort, because the people of Tobago does not like the fighting and the infighting. And while there are those that will say that Duke should have some level of reconciliation, the chief should consider, don't put all that pressure on too much, or do not do that to the Chief Secretary. The Chief Secretary has been through enough. He has been given a hard time by his own, which is Watson Duke, but he's been given, and all now he is fighting a battle against also a very desperate PNM and Tobago Council of the PNM and a central government who realizes that the Chief Secretary has captured the hearts and minds and imagination of the people of Tobago, and the people of Tobago are very satisfied with him. There are things that I will say that the chief needs to buck up on to be able to stand up against his critics. He's not perfect, but at the same time, he is popular, and with that populism comes an expectation. So be visible, be more accessible. Do not only be available to your town meetings and when your executive is speaking and at events. People should not have to follow you. You should be following the people. Take a walk through the market one day. Sit down and just have a conversation with people and engage with them in a way that they know who you are. Know who you are true to yourself, because you're still the fellow that they all admire from Speyside.
Now, I want to get back to Mr. Duke itself and sort of evaluating a whole lot of the things that were said. One of them is that some of the ideas that the Fally Augustine administration is acting on are all his ideas. And the only little bit of success that they are getting is because of him. And he says that he's the only one with the ideas to impact Tobago and to take Tobago to the next level.
Well, that's also subjective, and that's also up for debate, because did he write the manifesto? And did he come up with all of the policies? And did he come up with the tagline to make Tobago the greatest little island on the planet? Whose are those? And even that tagline, to make Tobago the greatest little island on the planet, has been signed, sealed, delivered, and bought into by everybody who's talking about Tobago, and every single stakeholder in the business world, in the foreign, that can bring in foreign direct investment, those that are in the diaspora outside, are all talking about this tagline and have bought it hook, line, and sinker. Is it impossible? No. Is it possible? Very much so. It needs all hands on deck. It is Watson Duke that chose to walk away and to cause this whole bacchanal because he didn't get his way. And he did not understand how public service regulations govern the THA and the processes and procedures. You can't just pick up the phone and ask a man in a division for $300,000 for a group of people. That is not how it works. There's a process. There's a process for quotations. There's a process of writing the minute, putting it in a file, signing it, sending it off to the chief administrator, to the administrator of the division, and then getting approval before it can be dispensed. So if he doesn't simply understand that very simple procedure I just outlined to you, then he's talking out of his mind now.
Now, is there any hope for redemption for Mr. Duke? Because, I mean, a lot of people like yourself, you know, see him, as you said, the political Lazarus, right? Is there any hope for him to redeem himself and to perhaps come back again in the political space? Or are you see this as completely done and over with?
But when one wants to come back into the political arena and one may have had an epiphany through the local government elections and realize that he's lost completely now. He has very few followers that are in the PDP. Everybody has shifted gears and they've gone behind the TPP, which we will talk about as well. You have to change your, not only, you can't want to look at, well, you know, he's pushing two looks. He is, I have described him as the political Lazarus that will not get what he wants, which is to get political life again. So, you know, there's no doubt there that I don't believe that he's going to get political life. But he is also pushing this look as though he's Moses and saw the Lord and came out of through his epiphany. He's all grey now. The look does not match the words that come out of his mouth. He is still speaking with a certain level of venom. He's still very demanding. He still has a certain level of acrimony. He still believes that he is the father and the flag bearer of opposition politics in Tobago. Opposition politics in Tobago is currently struggling, and they can't even get their feet on solid ground, right? Much less for Watson Duke. And what is it benefiting at this stage, after all has been said and done? What is the benefit to the TPP? What is the benefit to the Chief Secretary? What is the benefit to the THA? And what is the benefit to the people of Tobago? There's none. Because if there was a benefit, we would have not had to hear you read the news and say that the office in Roxborough Argyle is falling apart. If it is falling apart, it means to say that you've been absent from your own office, friend. It means to say that you've not been in your electoral district, friend. So go back to your people and do the representation. Start from there. Start by representing the people of Roxborough Argyle and not having one of your colleagues who are sitting in the administration doing your work as a representative for you while you've been busy making the rounds, trying to get political traction and ending up in a dead track.
Now, do you think that his call or his attempts to reconcile with the Chief Secretary is that genuine?
But when you go to someone and you're going to reconcile and you're going with cap in hand, you can't want to be a bully. You can't want to be aggressive. You cannot make demands. It must not, as I said, it must not be reconciliation with conditionalities. If you don't do this, I will do such and such. If you don't do this and then worse yet, the invitation is only at the olive branch, the borrowed olive branch. Because he went in somebody's yard, see an olive tree, but break the olive branch and come to borrow and thief the people olive branch to come to give it to Fally because he had no branch to give. And I will speak very frankly. This is something I predicted very early would happen in terms of Watson Duke being the weakest link and being a liability to the administration, and he's proven me right. And what I don't like is you cannot want to now come after you have failed at all levels of the political arena to come now and come as being some kind of proverbial son and want to come and put say, we let us come together and let us work to the betterment of Tobago, and then you want to put conditionalities to it? No. I want to help, I want to help. However you feel that I am best suited to assist, I will accept. But don't tell me that if I don't accept your reconciliation offer, you go hold me to task. Well, you're holding me to task already because you're on the opposition side. So you ain't going to be doing anything different. What if I was the chief? I'd write him back and say, start by representing the people that you voted for you in that Roxborough Argyle district.
And I mean, as you said about, he only referring to the chief secretary, because this is interesting, because it seems as though he doesn't even want to acknowledge the formation of the Tobago People's Party. He kept referring it to the thing. He don't know what that thing is. And if this is, I want you to talk about that language compared for his expressions of wanting to reconcile.
You see, again, there's a level of aggressiveness. There's still a level of acrimony. That's the word that I have to use. But at the end of the day, you have to take into consideration that why was the TPP formed? What was the catalyst that led to the TPP? It was because they realized that with Watson as the head of the PDP, he was going to be a dictator. He was going to dictate and want to force upon them certain things or actions or behaviors that they were not willing to accept. He was going to become more adversarial inside to make the job harder because, quite frankly, in the few months that he held the position of Deputy Chief Secretary, he did absolutely nothing. Let's put that on record. He didn't even get the office that is supposed to be a liaison between Tobago and Trinidad in Port of Spain set up effectively. So to set up a simple thing like an office, he did not get done, right? But to say that this thing, and he doesn't recognize the thing, he don't have to recognize the thing. The people of Tobago has already recognized it as a political party, and as far as I'm aware, it has already been registered with a symbol, a color, and a name under the EBC. So he don't need to recognize it. The Election and Boundaries Commission recognizes it, and the PNM also recognizes it because they are also on the back foot, now wondering, who should we put to stand against the TPP? Because the TPP also remains very popular among the people, right? And let us also understand that this is not a TPP administration. The law does not allow for the administration to be labeled along the political lines. So it is the Farley Augustine-led administration, just it was the Kelvin Charles-led administration. It was the Hochul Charles-led administration. So let's not tie the two into one. It's two separate entities. The administration is the governance aspect, and the TPP is the political aspect. And it can be separated. So he don't need to recognize it. What he needs to realize is whether he paying rent for the PDP office making any sense to him, or he wasting some finances, resources, right? And how best that can be put together. But he also spoke about something that's important that I want to raise with the people of Tobago. That issue of autonomy.
Yes.
And said that if he does not work together and they don't come together if Farley doesn't accept his reconciliation request and they don't come together to work to the benefit of the people of Tobago, then they are going to be stymieing and closing off and putting a halt to Tobago's development and also to the whole role of the whole process of autonomy for Tobago. People of Tobago, I want you all to understand something. For autonomy of Tobago to take place, there has to be at least a 3/5, but at best a 2/3 majority to allow for constitutional reform, which is the changing of the constitution to entrench Tobago's autonomy into the constitution and allow Trinidad and Tobago to move from being what the government wants it to be now, which is still a democratic society, a democracy, a parliamentary democracy. But in the true sense of Tobago getting its autonomy, it would require every single person who has an interest in the development of Tobago and Trinidad and how we move forward as a nation and as one people requires us to get us to at least at best a 2/3 majority, so that we will have the numbers in the parliament that will be able to change the law and effect and to provide Tobago with the autonomy it so rightly deserves. So don't believe that without Watson Duke, you will get autonomy. You wouldn't get autonomy. And don't believe either that it is so simple. Autonomy cannot come by a simple majority.
No, and what's interesting with that whole matter was that the quest for autonomy was also put on Mr. Duke as his position when he had held that position as Deputy Chief Secretary. And the purpose for establishing an office in Trinidad was to advocate on behalf of Tobago, see how much he can use his negotiation skills to get somewhere with autonomy for Tobago. And then we saw him saying over the last couple of days that, the Father Augustine-led administration failed in bringing autonomy for Tobago, but we didn't see anything from him where that was concerned.
You cannot bring autonomy to Tobago if there's a simple majority in the parliament. And you cannot bring autonomy to Tobago if the parliament consists of a PNM, 2 PNM MPs and the UNC alone. You cannot bring autonomy to Tobago when you have an adversarial parliamentary House of Representatives where both sides can't even agree on something that requires a simple majority. You cannot have autonomy for Tobago if Tobago is not fairly represented within the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And that means, therefore, that in the run-up to the 2025 general election, it is for the TPP to be able to win those 2 seats and also form. Fali can say what he wants now about not joining or not partnering with another political party in Tobago, in Trinidad. It may not necessarily be that he has to align himself with the UNC. Who knows tomorrow? A day in politics is like a lifetime. And what happens today, you could have a party in existence today, and it has happened, with an opposition leader sitting in the seat today, and by tomorrow morning you have a new opposition leader. We have, in this country, we have had a prime minister sitting in the chair between 2007 and 2010, realized that he had become so unpopular by his own actions that he decided to call a snap election, and within 1 month, he was out of office by a massive majority. So things change, and therefore, the time between now and 2025, one of the things that the administration or the TPP should be putting together is a document or a continuation of what already exists in the document for Tobago's autonomy to be presented and to be discussed. And I'm very happy you raised the issue about his ability, Watson's ability to negotiate, because that alone says that they had an appreciation, that is, the administration had an appreciation and an understanding of the skill. A skill that he himself did not even have an appreciation and understanding of, and not understanding the role he could have played had he just simply been diplomatic, understood his role and function, and stopped being such a political menace.
And those are the words we're going to have to leave this conversation. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed, for being on with us. And just going to say, we need to have you in person a little bit more often.
I make that promise.
So, viewers, please don't go anywhere because we are not done yet with GMT. We'll be back right after the break.
The energy fill the skies.
Right now, Tobagonians are just scurrying down to Bonaccord, right in Stobie Local Road. You know why? To come down and shop at Authentic Builders General Hardware, the only hardware store in Tobago that is giving you guys Trinidad prices. So for instance, such as steel, 1/2 inch and 5/8, $7,895. 5/8 construction ply for $260. Every single thing that you will need to do your home renovation or start your new construction, we have it right here. And to get your quotation, it's very easy. Just WhatsApp us at 272-1990 and we will do your free WhatsApp quotation for you.
Wait, I don't even have suit and thing for this wedding. Why getting them thing?
Well, look, put my right over there.
Alright, thanks.
The Port Mall, where the varieties are large from your favorite stores, from restaurants to salons and from clothing stores to jewelry stores, located at Sanctus Hill, Scarborough, Tobago. Telephone number is 868-334-6589.
Wow. I didn't expect to see you here. Look good.
Thanks. It's all because of you and Port Mall. But here now I'm going to talk with you. You want to join me?
Yeah, that's okay.
Alright.
Beat the rush and come on down to the Port Mall.
Tapicom. Welcome to the future. The only card you will need in a new world. Digital business cards. Safe, hassle-free. The future is here. Tapicom. New generation digital transfer. Digital time clock cards. Digital attendance cards. Air tags. Customized designs. Digital clothing tags. Digital pet tags. Tapicom. The future is here. Contact us today.
Inner Health, number 13B Port Mall, Scarborough, Tobago, with over 25 years experience offering services in and not limited to microscopic blood analysis, reflexology, and the sale of a wide range of organic herbal products used to supplement thyroid, lymphatic, heart, kidney, and brain health, and the male and female reproductive systems. Come and chat with us. Remember, your health is your wealth.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denasia.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, yes, we are continuing our conversation this morning on the topic of Mr. Watson Duke, the political leader of the PDP and Assemblyman for Roxborough Argyle. Now, joining us for this next half hour to take us through and to give us a perspective on what's been going on, because certainly the
PDP started. It was started on a lie. So here's one of the founding members, so to speak. So let me just read it. It's very short, half a minute. The PDP began with a beautiful democratic process, but was registered with selfish intentions. It was a Sunday afternoon at the PSA compound, Scarborough. Present were Mr. Duke, Mr. Caleb Phillip, Gary Boris, that's Natasha's father, Miss Nikisha Pantin, and many others. The process was a fully democratic one. Mr. Duke did not, emphasis, Mr. Duke did not choose the party's name, nor the symbol. Everything was put to a vote. The people chose the name and the symbol, and both were put to a vote, and the one with the most votes was the winner. The entire process was guided by the people on the floor, not Mr. Duke's democracy. It was, when he was ready, so he was given the opportunity to register the party, and he selflessly and clandestinely went secretly and registered the party in his name only. He used the people to get what he wanted, but did not get everyone involved in the registration process, just as he used Farley Augustine to help him win the election, and then we saw the true Watson Duke spirit and so forth. So that is how the PDP really started. There's a founding member there, and Mr. Duke went behind against the will of the people, and registered the party secretly. And had this thing come out, we would not have known that is what actually took place. So he's claiming that, no, it's my party. I started my brother and a dog under a street light. So what was started on a lie, what was started disingenuously, we're now getting the full story of how the PDP was really formed. Quite unlike what we are seeing in the TPP today. So,
and that's what interesting, because we saw the last few days, he kept saying, Mr. Duke has been saying repeatedly that the ideas are all his for the party in terms of the mandate, and the election promises were all his, and he's the one that's full of the good ideas, and nothing good could happen without his ideas.
Not at all. I was Mr. Duke's leader at one time in the PSA when I was the chairman of the Tobago branch here, and the chairman of the Tobago section of Mr. Duke was a part of. He was never a good trade unionist. He cannot even write a clause in a collective agreement. Mr. Duke, the last collective agreement that was signed by Mr. Duke in Tobago, I wrote it for the doctors of the TRHA. He came up with the first vice president and signed it after I had done all the heavy lifting. So he doesn't know a thing. He is completely bereft of an understanding of these matters and political matters. He cannot act without guidance, and he takes no guidance. That is why the PSA almost folded under him, and that is why the PDP folded under him. He takes no advice. I was his advisor. I was the first advisor he took for the PSA when he was president of the PSA. And he took no advice. And I resigned. After I resigned, he said, I'll fire you. So that's how the guy operates. So he's not to be taken seriously. I hope that the chief secretary done with Mr. Duke to even consider any form of reconciliation. I think Mr. Duke is an abysmal failure. In fact, I saw him. He goes everywhere for recognition. He came to church on Saturday. I was there at Rockville on Saturday with my wife and family. And he came in at the last half an hour. So everybody have to turn around and look at him. He came in there with his wife and his son. And I say, what a pity. And he's there clapping. I said, my God. And he's clapping and he's singing. I said, my God. So, you know, like...
So did he not have a conversation with him?
No, it is the second politician that I hid myself from. I wouldn't say who's the first one. I really don't want to meet him. I don't really want to shake his hand. And I was hoping that he wouldn't use that opportunity on the Sabbath to make a scene. So I let him leave. When I was sure that he went into his car, I came outside because he is the kind who will create a scene. And the Sabbath day was not a time for creating such a scene. You understand what I'm saying? So forgive me. So that's the kind of individual he is. Not to be taken seriously. He believes in being grandiose and making a scene, you know, to get recognition. He's about self and not about the good things of life and not about good politics and so forth. I was given permission on the last occasion to call him a particular name, but I will refrain myself. Now is not a day. Today is what? Wednesday? Mm-hmm. Wednesday is not a day for Kilsin.
Now, what should we? How should people now feel about this olive branch approach, especially in light that all that has happened, and in light of people not being pleased with the political fighting going on? I mean, and it's unfortunate that our news headlines has been so captivated by, you know, whether or not Mr. Augustine is against the Prime Minister or Mr. Augustine is against Mr. Duke. I mean, there's been a lot of animosity and adversarial relationships all about. So how should people view this olive branch approach in light of all of that?
Well, there's no olive branch. I don't know why people are framing it as an olive branch. I think Mr. Duke is an agent of the PNM. It's either he's an agent of the PNM or he's an agent of the devil himself. But there's no agency involved here at all whatsoever. in terms of characterizing our chief secretary as antagonistic or having an antagonistic relationship with the prime minister, it's the prime minister from Tobago who set this thing up. And I think the party, and I think Mr. Augustine would have responded splendidly. I don't think that if you cut me, I will bleed. So to say that the chief secretary is having a polemic type of relationship with the prime minister is quite wrong. If you pinch me, I'll squeal. If you cut me, I'll bleed. So the chief secretary had to respond. He's human, and so the prime minister is who went against the constitution, or he delayed the constitutional process of appointing a chief administrator. It is the prime minister that has not instructed to date his minister of finance to ensure that we get 6.9% of the budget. It's the prime minister understands the boat situation. It's the prime minister understands the airbridge situation. What has he done? What should Tobago do? Then you take all of our gas and oil, and this give us back 4 cents or $4. I say 4 cents on the dollar. So that those are the true enemies, and those are the people who will come back and say, well, let us reconcile. And I've always been a secessionist, because I knew from since a little child, growing up in Bell Garden, toting peas in the evening and planting and Edos from Richmond, and having to go to Bishop's High School early in the morning, getting up 4:30, staying with the family and the designated transportation, and to have to catch the 4:30 bus in the evening. If you don't get it, depending on the time of the year, you reach home in the night. And so we understand the struggle. So that the PNM has not done anything of any significant as a lasting legacy for Tobago. Others, they would have fixed the air bridge, they would have fixed the boat situation, and they would have fixed communications, they would have fixed the budget, they would have fixed the autonomy. And therefore, when those things don't occur, how dare anyone to say that the chief secretary is having an antagonistic relationship with the prime minister? It is the prime minister, his minister of finance, Shamfa Kojo, Webster Roy. They are the culprits. And I want to take the opportunity to ask Shamfa Kojo today, and I know Webster Roy today, can you please put on record that you will support a 6.9% for a budget for Tobago in the next month and a half or so? So I'm calling them out today. And I'm hoping others online who are watching also call out Shamfa Kojo. Let us see and hear where her heart is. Let us hear what Aina Webster Roy would have to say about a 6.9% budget for Tobago. So I'm taking this early opportunity for that discussion to take place here in Tobago and by extension Trinidad, so that we want to hear what our representatives will say. Will you support, Aina Webster Roy, will you support a 6.9% budget for Tobago? Shamfa Kojo, will you support a 6.9% budget for Tobago? Keith Christopher Rowley, or Prime Minister, will you support a 6.9% budget for Tobago, even more? Because you know what? Kamala Posebisesa, who is not a Tobagonian, would have promised Ashworth Jack to double the budget. It means, therefore, by administrative fiat, the Prime Minister could do it. He only has to say, let us do it. We want the airbridge fixed. We want to have the port fixed to a truly international station. Just as how he can take the decision to the sea bridge is critical because the fees are cheaper. We have sea access to any part of the world. It is a shorter distance to Tobago than Port of Spain to any part of the world. And we want to live too. We want to enjoy those things that God has put there in our waters. We want to enjoy those things too. This is not a union, you know. You know what passes for union? I was flabbergasted to see on in terms of the mechanized unit of the Defense Force, you have a long haul tractor and a backhoe. I have the pictures here. It's a long haul base truck and a backhoe. A green backhoe and a green truck. And that's what passes for Tobago. They're not even on Independence Day, where the Chief Secretary represents the President, and all they could send to Tobago is a backhoe and a long-haul based truck. It is really perplexing. There's nothing to be gained from this union. In fact, as I said, it's not a union. We were fused. The British took a decision. It was, and Tobago protested it. But who were they at the time to challenge the crown? But they took a decision. So we were not unionized with Tobago of free will. That's what unionized means, of free will. We were fused. And we want to cut that. For me.
No, but
and so
getting
on.
back to the conversation about now Mr. Duke, and we saw him yesterday in Roxborough trying to, make his presence known again, because he expressed it. He said that, he is going to refocus his energies here in Tobago, work towards building out the PDP, making sure the people of Tobago knows that the PDP is here to stay. Is there hope, Mr. Duke, in Roxborough? Do you think that, he is aware of what his people, the residents of that area, are feeling about his representation?
Roxborough is a rundown place. The people voted for you. He should have concentrated his efforts into bringing the Roxborough, Argyle and Betsy Soap people together, so we could have better roads, we could have cooperatives being formed, we could have a return to business activity. In fact, he himself went to China and Dubai, and he came up when he saw my brother doing such a wonderful master plan for Scarborough. He said, I'll do one for Roxborough too, on his own, without even the proper consultations. He left all of that dangling in front of everybody and went and wanted to be a mayor. The people voted for you for a particular purpose, not for you to leave here and go to Port of Spain, another demographic, another area of the country, a foreign area to you, notwithstanding he lives there, and so on. He lost his way. He lost his mandate. He was greedy. Maybe he wanted to be prime minister. The time for that may have come, but the point of the matter is that he left all those things there and went elsewhere, and then comes back and then said, forgive me, I'll be a better person. And then you paint your head green. His head is either green or yellow. What kind of man is that? You left here with your head sponged or well shaven, and you came back with your head green. So what does that mean? What that tells you of the psyche of an individual is that. Then you say, I want to reconcile. But that thing, referring to the anchor, that cannot overhaul the PNM. And you want reconciliation.
Do you think the Chief Secretary should accept the offer for reconciliation and go into a meeting with Mr. Duke and hear him out?
He will certainly lose me for starts. If the Chief Secretary does that, he will lose me. He'll lose a lot of people. He might lose everybody. The party, by the way, is not the Chief Secretary's party. He's only interim political leader. And even though he's political leader in the next few weeks or months, when the thing is really formed, it's still not his party. Those are political decisions that have to be sanctioned by the rank and file. He has to be given a mandate. He cannot act on his own. And that's the democracy, that's the bulwark of the TPP has been formed and founded, where you have significant political decisions to undertake. You have to have the blessings of the party, except you already have the mandate and you're taking a decision within the context of the mandate. But the Chief Secretary or Mr. Honorable Farley Augustine and the executive, they don't have that mandate. So there's not even up for discussion.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then, just how should everybody or the people of Tobago now view this whole situation? How should we view this development? And I'm just giving you about a minute, because we have about a minute left before the show ends. Yes.
Yes. Well, I think I am calling Tobagonians to reject Mr. Duke wrongly and soundly and overwhelmingly, and let us move on to better things. We have our harbor to discuss. We have our budget to discuss. We have autonomy issues to discuss. I think that we should focus on those things, the things that will now propel Tobago to true independence and autonomy. Those are the things we should focus on. A better economy, jobs for our children, education, scholarships, infrastructure development. Those are the things we should focus on. And I think that is what this executive council at present has been doing splendidly. I think we on to good things, and I think that's what we in Tobago should prosecute and support this executive in making Tobago the best island in the world.
Yes, in the planet. All right,
On the planet.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. James, for being on with us and giving us your perspective. Always appreciated here.
You're most welcome, Candice.
All right, viewers, and that's how we're going to wrap this morning show. I want to thank you so much for viewing us. So have a safe and wonderful day. And don't forget you have brunch coming up at 10 o'clock.
The energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong.